Good evening, everybody.
Hey.
This is Ezra Suba with the 3F Podcast: Faith, Family, Fatherhood, changing families' destinies one father at a time. Today's episode, we got a doozy. This is so powerful. This is going to be a two-parter. This is one of my great friends, Ty Hall, and I wanted to share something with everybody. One of the great phenomena in our community right now, the number of people who do not know who their biological father is. Statistics show us that over 24 million people just in this country don't know who their biological fathers are. So, Ty, I want you to tell your story because it's amazing.
Wow. One of the reasons he asked me, and I said yes, I would be more than happy to do it, is it's taken me 42 and a half years to find my biological father.
Yeah, speak up a little bit.
I'm sorry, it's taken me 42 and a half years to find my biological father. And it happened through ancestry, DNA, and it also happened with me just being able to tap in and be ready. So, what I will tell anybody right now is that God's timing is perfect because had this been 5 years ago, my heart probably wouldn't have been in the right place to receive the information of knowing that my father was alive, and let alone him being where I could talk to him on the phone. So it took me having to do self work, right, in order to make the ground ready to receive. So,
Ground fertile.
right, biblically speaking, in order to get any harvest from this, I first had to do the work, and the work was on myself. Um, I started with having to accept the apology that never came. Right, that was the hardest thing, is to know that someone owes you that much just to say I'm sorry and mean it, and to know that they would never do it. Once I was able to accept that, and I gave the forgiveness away, things started to fall into place. So yeah, 42 and a half years. I'll be 43 in September, and I'm now a daddy's girl.
And when did you find him?
Three Fridays ago. So
Three
literally,
Fridays ago.
yeah, 3 Fridays ago I found my dad. So this is very, very new. It was the almost the second to last week in April, and now here we are in the first week of May, and I have a dad.
So, I mean, that I can't even imagine. So, how did that affect you growing up? When did you first start asking about your father, and what effect did that have on you as you were coming up?
I think my earliest recollection is 4 years old. Like, I remember asking where my dad was because I watched my cousins be with my uncle, right? That was their dad. So, like, I did not have my own inside my home.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with my great grandparents and my grandfather. He was 80 plus when I was born, and he was the only male figure outside of my uncle that I had in my life, but I had no dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I even remember the A team coming on and waiting for the phone number like to flash across the screen so I can call them and have them find my dad. And it just never happened.
Hmm.
So it was that. As far as affecting me, I knew enough about what I didn't want.
What do you mean?
Meaning, I didn't want someone who was going to become like some other fathers that I saw. The calling and never showing up, the promising and never being there. So
I can cut a child.
what kind of made it easy for me to accept my father when we did have our first conversation was he never disappointed me.
Mm.
He never lied to me because he was never given a chance.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
You know what I'm saying? So it is also about perspective and how you choose to look at things. But like I said, this took self work. I would write a letter to my father every year on Father's Day.
Really?
And when they started off, they weren't always nice because I was bitter. I had resentment. Like I was the child that was forgotten. And that was how I signed it.
How old were you when you first started writing that letter?
I started writing these letters when I was about 19, after I became a mom to my daughter. And I saw the love that my husband was exuding towards his child.
He's gonna be on the show next week, y'all. It's a whole nother story.
I also had to battle with jealousy, right? And
How so?
a lot of people will say, "What do you mean?" I was jealous of the relationship that my husband had with my daughter
Mm.
because I had never experienced that kind of unconditional love where they would just do things and they had like their own kind of language that they would speak. And I would literally get upset and have to walk out the room. And I had to check myself like, what are you doing? You've given your children more than what you've ever had.
Mm.
So how can you sit here and have these kind of emotions? The fact check was I was still that child who wanted the love of her father and never got it.
I heard it said that when a father is not in a child's life, they have a hole in their heart, the shape of their father.
Probably, and like from what I understand, my father's over 6 feet tall, so it was definitely a lot to feel. Um, my husband never tried to be my dad. I would never call him daddy because that's just ridiculous. Um, that's my preference. But he did everything he could to be that support system for me. So as I wrote those letters, he would just take them and file them away. And then about maybe 10 years ago, I started to make them public on Facebook. I would literally write, "Hey dad, it's your daughter," because I understood the power of social media.
So at this point, you still hadn't met him,
I still hadn't met him.
but you were just putting them on Facebook.
So I would put it on Facebook, and then when I finally got that picture of my father, and I posted it, and it was like my last time writing one, and I said, "Hey, if you're out there, if you know who he is, tell him I'm still looking." And when I discovered my aunt, and we started talking, she did research because
Okay.
she had told her friend, "Hey, I'm going to meet this cousin I found on Ancestry," and the friend was like, "What you mean? Who is she? Let's do some research." Picked up the phone and started scrolling. She said, "Oh, this baby looking for her daddy. It's a picture." And my aunt said, "Let me see the picture." She took the phone from her friend and dropped her friend's phone because she was like, "That's my brother."
Mm.
And this whole time, my father, my dad,
What's the difference?
the difference is, and this is probably going to go over somebody's head, the difference is I was never fatherless. I just didn't have a dad.
Mm.
Because if God is our father,
Mm.
and I am supposed to be so hidden in him, then I was never fatherless, but I was without a dad,
Got you.
right?
Good stuff.
So, and my dad told me this, so it's not like I had this wonderful revelation on my own. Okay, I gotta give him credit. But yeah, so with that, I literally had to understand the role. And then when she called me, she was like, "Well, baby, he didn't know." And as his sister, I can validate, we were always told that he could never have children. Now, in our community, right, we will foster children, but very rarely will you see a black family adopt black children because there's so much red tape we have to go through. And when you're adopting children inside of the U.S., it's far harder to do it than when you go overseas. That's why you see a lot of people adopt children from Asia or these other countries because it's just easier, which makes no sense.
Yeah.
But they started fostering children, right? Him and his wife, Gail. And then from there, they adopted 5 children, right? So this man wanted to be a dad so bad that even though he was told he couldn't have children, he went a step past fostering, because fostering means you're going to get money for these children, you're going to be able to, the government is going to subsidize, right? They adopted them and gave them their last name, which these adult children still carry, right?
It's a whole different level.
So they opened up their hearts, and now I have sisters and brothers. Because who is it for me to say I'm his only child? I'm not. Because long before he got to meet me, he was someone else's dad, right? As a matter of fact, today is May the 3rd. My little sister, Pooh, is having a baby today.
Who having a baby?
Pooh is having a baby.
Go ahead, Pooh.
And she lives in Arizona. I have a brother who is retired military, and he is in Valdosta.
Okay.
My older sister, Brandy, is in Chicago with him.
Okay.
And then I have a brother named Dwayne. I had a sister named Jennifer who unfortunately passed away. So again, and you see, I'm embracing the titles. I'm embracing this family who is nothing but love. And for them, they're so excited for him because he finally
That's a
has
big
that
deal.
peace,
Hmm.
right? That one missing piece. And none of them have looked at me like, well, what you want?
Let me tell you guys this. Ty is a success story. This is not a sad story. It's a
Oh, no.
story of triumph. This lady is an international chef. She's been on some of those cooking shows. Which ones have you been on?
I did supermarket stakeout. I did rooftop chopped. So I'm a competitive chef. I have a seal from the White House. I had hot sauce and barbecue sauce. They made it in 276 grocery stores throughout the Virginia area. So it wasn't that I was woe is me, but this was that piece of the puzzle that needed to be found in order for my story to have some kind of complete
Closure.
closure. Yeah.
So you can have you can not have a father in your life, but that's not a reason for you not to still fulfill your potential and grow and become a success story and not a victim.
No, and I guess I can credit my grandmother, right? Because she told me, baby, he's not here, but it's not because he doesn't love you. It's his loss that he doesn't know where and what you're doing right now.
Mm.
He's never lied to you and he hasn't disappointed you.
That's powerful. Now, this story is so powerful, it's going to be two parts. Next week, we're going to have her husband on, who I've known for many years, just one of the most happiest married couples also. So this is a really powerful story. I have personal friends who don't know who their biological fathers are.
Yeah.
So when I do the 3R podcast and I say faith, family, and fatherhood, and I say because fathers matter, really does. And I wanted Ty to come on so that if certain people have fathers are not in their lives, they can work through that forgiveness. They can work through that closure because that you don't want that anger and everything bottled up in you. So we're going to close it down for right now. And if you like information like this, if you think this is important, if you think this should be shared, go to the YouTube channel and look up the 3F podcast, Faith, Family, and Fatherhood, because fathers matter. You
They
hear
really
me?
do. They really do. Like, I am a daddy's girl at 42. And I don't know, maybe if we get this thing going next week, I might even let y'all meet my dad.
Whoa! Wouldn't that be powerful? Coming at you soon.